This is part two of the ongoing three-part series in Rav Moshe's tshuva on learning from a book during the time of Hazaras haShatz. What's the deal with it? So, the first part on Monday, Rav Moshe went through Rabbi Avraham Goldviner's position on this topic. But a question might arise in your minds: why did he skip over the Shulchan Aruch? Why did he go straight to Magen Abraham's position on this? But before we go into that, I want to start with the very top of this second page in the second section. The second section of this particular tshuva I've broken down into two separate sections. The first section of which we'll be dealing with in today's lecture, and tomorrow we'll be finishing up the second section and moving on to the conclusion. He says, of all lanias daitinira dehu rakashika asar shomen Hazaras haShatz lo masikin klal shalachim heim sovrim shmutar medin le'amod le'elo shochlu l'chavin l'sofa bracha la'nasan v'ilav hadil mdu acher menu aval k'shleich asar asar medina. So when he's talking about this position that the Magen Avraham has put forth, as Rav Moshe has explained, this is only for the person who's there, and there are already 10 other people. But now he's going to make an adjustment in this section where the stakes are now higher. He's going to talk about not just about this one person, but about a larger cohort of people. What happens if you don't actually have the required 10 that need to be there, who are making up this body of listeners, of Mechavanim L'Bracha. I want to point out two other elements that now shift that we saw in the first section that are going to be different from this big chunk in the second section. One is, like I said regarding the stakes, it's that it's not just what happens, but as what the individual should do. In the first part, it's the individual, particularly someone who's learning. But now we're going to be talking sort of more about a public policy as what people should do, or what there needs to be, sort of what the various elements need to be. But a more interesting thing is, in the first section, including the Magen Avraham, is everybody is post the age of printing. And this is why Magen Avraham is the first person, and then everybody else is after him, and we skip the Shulchan Aruch, because Sidurim were not beginning to be printed until the latter half of the 16th century, and therefore there's also proliferation of Sidurim, and people can easily read, as well as also looking at learning from books. Because before then, this is not as big of an issue, and that's why also in this second section we're going to see mainly a lot of Rishonim and so forth, but they're not going to be dealing with looking at books, because A, you're not going to be learning from books because you don't really have printed books around, and B, you also don't have you also have more of a chance of people who are Einan Bikin, that they are not going to know, and they also don't have a book from which to read to know how to pray. So these are issues that are going to come up. I'm not going to go into detail in the first part of the second section. You have the source that I sent out, but in brief, the main elements that Rav Moshe is now going to marshal is that you need, and from what I said at the beginning, that you need to have 10 people, or 10 men. You need to have 10 men who are paying attention to the brachas and are saying Amen. And I must point out something that is kind of peculiar to me. He quotes Yerushalmi, a couple of early to mid 4th century rabbis who are saying it's not logical with prayer. Each one should be seeking mercy upon himself, or with that you can't be yotzi someone else, like your neighbor or so forth. So when we're talking about people who are listening to the Hazaras haShatz, that you can't, if you have, let's say, there are 9 people, but you have, aside from the shots, and one of them isn't paying attention, that someone else can somehow cover his kavanah for him. That there's a non-transferability of kavanah principle, if you will, going on. So it seems peculiar, because it's almost as if from there Rav Moshe is saying that when you are a listener at the time of Hazaras haShatz, you are mivakesh rachamim on yourself, which is interesting for his thing. And at the end, he, as textual supports, he brings Ron, Rosh, and Tur. And but I just want to finish off with this, that he says, quoting from the Tur, was actually quoting from his dad, that because tisha mechavenim bebrachos haShatz karov einai lios birchos haShatz levatal ki niskana birchos haShatz leon b'asar. That you need to have not just it's not just they're saying amen to each of the brachos, that these 10 that you absolutely need, but they're also there's an intention that they're somehow paying attention as well. So we will conclude with the third part of this ongoing series tomorrow, and thank you very much.